1 month from now, the United Nations Climate Conference, known as COP27, will begin in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. The last month has seen a flurry of activities as various nations have been preparing for the summit. With the event being held in Africa, there is a great hope on the continent that money will finally be provided to help nations here adapt to climate change. The president of the African Development Bank recently made clear the importance of the conference in meetings outside the United Nations General Assembly.
Africa is suffering. Africa is choking. Africa is in serious financial distress for what it didn't cause. And therefore, there must be a greater sense of urgency, not in talking, but in doing and in delivering resources that Africa needs very, very desperately.
American climate change envoy John Kerry also attended the meetings. A week earlier, he met with 24 African leaders in Egypt to talk about COP27. Big polluters like the US and China are expected to meet the costs that Africa is bearing. This continent produces only 3% of the world's carbon emissions, but suffers terribly from the effects of climate change. That has recently been brought home in terrifying reality as millions of Somalis and others in the Horn of Africa have suffered from drought. Adesina said the world and his continent must focus on adaptation.
We must deliver the goods there. And if there are goods to be delivered, it's really about adaptation. That's what Africa really, we have nothing, and we only contribute, as the Secretary Kerry was saying, less than 3%, but we suffer disproportionately from the negative consequences of that. Our economies have been stymied by that, and so we do desperately must have the financing for climate adaptation there.
The AFDB was supposed to put 40% of their funding this year toward climate change. They have put 41%. They were supposed to make it a 50-50 split for mitigation and adaptation. Adaptation has received 67%. According to the bank president, $600 billion is needed by 2030 for low-income African countries to adapt to climate change. $18 billion has been raised so far, so there is a long way to go. The African Development Fund has been launched by the AFDB to solicit and direct this money. 20 million farmers are to get next-generation technology. 20 million farmers are to get insurance. 1 million hectares of degraded land will be rehabilitated if the money comes through. But Adesina says recent events have made him confident the funds can be raised.
During this issue of the Russian war in Ukraine, we launched a $1.5 billion facility very, very rapidly. And within 45 days, we had done 24 countries. We promised $1.5 billion. We had done $1.13 billion in less than 45 days. And it will produce 38 million metric tons of food for Africa, which is more than what Africa is going to lose coming from all of the 30 million it will lose from Russia and Ukraine war. The technologies exist. The platforms exist. The programs exist. That's not the problem. What we need is finance. Unfortunately, we have megawatts of talk and zero delivery of financing. So if we can be more efficient in that, I think we'll be able to solve the problem.
$100 billion for Africa is the goal in Sharm el-Sheikh. Next month, we will find out whether the industrialized countries will live up to their promises to create a brighter future for Africans. ADN TV will continue to report on climate developments across the globe.